Hello, welcome back to The Road with Ali Sultan. We have so much to cover on this next episode. First of all, I just want to say a shout out and thank you for all the people that listen to this podcast and also messaged me personally for the previous episode and said, share things that are relatable and also encourage me to create further episodes. Where do I start? I'm going to start with one thing that I missed about the Minneapolis episode, okay? So when I went to Minneapolis last time to record the album, I forgot to mention this part. That's kind of funny, okay? So in the audience after the show, I recognized the young kid with dreads. He maybe is like 20 years old, okay? Maybe 19, 20 years old. And I was like, oh my God, I couldn't believe this guy showed up to the show. And here's who this kid is. Okay, I'll tell you a fun story. In 2023, it was like May. It was Cinco de Mayo. I remember this. Cinco de Mayo, I had a show in Wisconsin. It's about like 2 hours drive from Minneapolis. And I get on the first highway, which is like right by the apartment that I lived in. And I'm on a traffic light and I see a car behind me and it's continuing to not stop. It's a red light. And I'm like, this person behind me is not slowing down at all. Oh no, they're going to hit me. Oh, they hit me. And this person crashed into my car that was stopped at a red light. Okay. I'm kind of pissed because I'm like, I got to go to this gig in a couple hours, and Minnesota is like a no fault type of state, so it's really annoying. So like even if it's not your fault, your insurance premium goes up because you're in an accident, all this bullshit. And I just hate dealing with insurance, and I hate having to call the cop and deal with this whole mess. I'm annoyed. I'm kind of pissed off. I get off and I'm like about to curse whoever the driver is. And my first words were gonna be, dude, can't you see the fucking red light? And then as I'm like heated, I see a young kid who might have been 17 at the time. And with his little, I believe, two little sisters, maybe a boy or girl or two girls. I don't remember, but they were little kids that might have been maybe third graders or less. And they were scared and he was like quiet also and nervous. And I can see just the immediate regret in his face. And I just like something about the combination of those little kids being scared and him just having this concerned look in his face like I fucked up, softened my edges. So I didn't even get mad at him. I just immediately said, are they okay? And I make sure to check in on the girls or the girl boy. I can't remember. And they seemed fine. And I was like, hey, buddy, you all right? He's like, yeah. And then I find out this kid is driving without insurance, okay? And he is driving on insurance, but he's also just picked up his young siblings from school. And he said, he'll stay in contact with me and he'll fix the car. The bumper and the muffler were damaged. I was like, you know what? I just liked his vibes. He seemed trustworthy. And he seemed like, I don't know. I just have felt merciful. So I was like, okay, that's fine. I took a leap of faith. I took his phone number, contacted him after, etc. Eventually, his father comes back from out of town. His kid is really polite and quiet and sweet. And his father is just a character, just an absolute character. This has happened like a few years back. So like, I wish I can have more fresh memories of the things that his father would say and do. The father is out of this world, okay? And he was so warm with me. He's like, your family now, I'll take care of this, etc. And then slowly we eventually figured out a solution and they actually fixed the bumper and the muffler. And I was just so flexible and kind to them as well in the process. Like I didn't pick the most expensive place. I was like, you know what? Let's go to, whatever the cheapest, affordable way for you guys to fix this issue. And then it worked out then. One of the things I remember is like the kind of, I guess, a funny story about the dad is he invited me to his home. He's like, now your family, you have to come to the house. And I showed up to his home, and he just, he casually had, I think, one or two chickens in the backyard. Okay, this is Minneapolis. This isn't farmland. This is like we're in the middle of the city. Okay, this guy's raising chickens in the backyard, and then he may or may not offered me an egg, which I love. I love a friend. Hey, if I have any friends in New York or Brooklyn who are raising chickens and got the supply hookup on fresh eggs, I holla at your boy. And the father was telling me about how he met his mom, and he goes, "Yeah, they're Cuban, so he's an Afro-Cuban. He's like, yeah, she came to Cuba, and she was looking at this. She's looking at the coconut tree, and on top of the coconut, he asked her, would you like to have it?" And she said yes, and he climbed the tree and got the coconut for her. I believe that's the story of how they met, and that's how he got her. I was like, this is very like almost like caveman way of hitting on a lady. He's like, yeah, you want food? I will supply. I will hunt and gather. And, he'll say things like that. And then I remember at one point in the car, he's like, he finds out I'm half Ethiopian. He goes, "Oh, Ethiopian woman." And then he just like kind of like started talking about how sexy Ethiopian women are. And his son starts to like laugh. That guy was a character. Love that guy. I think his name was Akin or Akeem or something. Akin. Anywho. So that kid came to the Minneapolis show, and that was really wonderful to see because it's nice. It made the those interactions that we had genuine. Okay, so like past fixing the car. That whole thing could have been a front of like trying to make me not call the cops or the insurance companies, etc. And then as soon as the car is fixed, we go our separate ways. But the fact that he came to my show a couple of years later, and he since moved to New York also to like study and stuff like that. So I caught up with him on school stuff, and he's actually will be back in New York, and that was a wonderful thing to see. It's good to see that kid. I truly, genuinely wish him the best. Awesome guy. So that was a Minneapolis thing that I missed that I wanted to talk to you guys about. Okay, so this week, before I even get to my trip to San Diego, I went to open for the very funny Kelsey Cook. Open for Kelsey Cook in San Diego. We did Thursday, Friday, Saturday at the American Comedy Club, which is an incredible comedy club. Had the best of times there. I will get to that in a second. I want to start with what happened the day before. So I leave Thursday to San Diego, and Wednesday at around 6 p.m., I'm coming back home, and I see a bird. I was going downstairs to throw trash, and I see a little bird, and it had an injured wing, and it was a sparrow. And I thought to myself, I don't think this bird is going to make it through another night because there's a lot of stray cats around us, and it's about to rain. It's just like not favorable conditions. And I thought, let me see if I can help the bird. I tried to catch the bird, and I went into this fenced area where we have like a tree and some plants. And it's and it's locked, so I can't just walk in. Try to get it. It went there. I was like, okay, never mind. I go upstairs, and I'm still thinking about the bird. I'm like, okay, maybe this time let me Google what I would even do, because I'm about to leave. Our friend Alex is going to come and cat sit the next day. My cats will destroy this bird if they caught it. So I'm just thinking of a solution, and then I Google stuff, and I found that if you just find a box, poke some holes, and make it cushiony, and then just put them there, that would be fine. And then I can put the box out of reach. That was like the initial thought. And then I put gloves on in case the bird is diseased, and I went back there, and this time I was just bringing trash the second time. The first time I was cleaning stuff. I'm becoming a good Karen, you would say. I'm starting to hate litter. You know what I mean? There is a fire hydrant right out in front of our building that's like not sealed all the way, so it drops water like one at a time, just like little droplets. But it's formed this little, I don't want to call it a pond, but it's there's some water formed, and that's where all the birds that I've seen, like the sparrows and doves and all these guys, that's where they drink their water. That's like their source of fresh water. So unfortunately, I live in a block that there's people that litter too much, which I think I hate people that litter. It fucks up the quality of life, that when you litter, then I have to, it's just not a pretty thing. And it's just like a sign of depression. I feel like when people litter, they're just depressed and they've given up on the world, or they're just careless. So people litter often. So I bought a thing from Amazon. You ever seen anybody doing like, court ordered cleaning time? They got that little stick that grabs things. I bought one of those without the court, without my lawyer having to be involved. I just did it for out of the goodness of my heart. I bought one of those, and I just had a funny thought. When I'm out there doing this, cleaning the water and cleaning around my like in front of my building. People kind of don't know what to do with that information. They look at me and they're like, that guy doesn't look the cleaner guy. I don't look like I'm working because I'm usually like in my leisure shorts, and I don't look like I'm doing this for money. So people, just kind of, I don't know. I feel like I'm getting judged a little bit. I feel like people are like, what's this guy's deal? Is this a Karen? So I'm thinking about actually buying an orange vest situation so it does look like it is court ordered. So they can look at me and be like, oh, that's just another bad boy who got drunk and drove. I don't know. So anyways, I was cleaning this first time, and that's when I saw the bird. Second time, I was bringing down garbage, and I was like, if I find it, I'll take care of it. And I see it for the second time, and this time I hop over the fence, which was kind of dangerous, to be honest with you. It did not feel like the safest thing, and I was stressed out. Even if I catch it, I'm holding it with my hand, I don't know how to get over this fence. I had to like hop onto the fence, sit on the fence, and just rotate my body and get down. So I do the same thing, and now I'm inside with him, and he disappears. And I was like, all right, you know what, it's not meant to be. I'm leaving tomorrow anyways. What am I even gonna do with this bird? I tried my best. As I'm walking to the front door of the building, he has left the fenced area and now he's by the door. So I take that as a sign. I'm like, that's very like, this feels like I'm supposed to help this bird. Okay. So I get him cornered into a spot where he can no longer leave, or she, and I grab it with my hand and I take it upstairs. I take it to the bathtub first, and I strap my cats with their like harness and stuff so they're not, they don't get to it. And I feed it a little bit, and it does eat some of the birdseeds that I already had. And guess who just joined me? Tiger just joined me. Tiger just joined the chat, and he is giving me the I am hungry look. Oh yeah, okay, it is. We have an automatic feeder that comes out at 5 p.m. and then after that we give him wet food. So it's giving me the hey buddy, you're late for wet food look. So I take care of the bird as much as I can. I give it water, give it seeds, and now I'm trying to figure out a solution. What do I do with this injured bird? Gone tomorrow. So I research a bunch, and I talked to Alex, who's cat sitting. She's like so kind. She's like, you know what? I'll feed it. I'll do whatever I can do to help. I leave. I find there's only one organization in New York and Manhattan that rescues birds and, rehabilitate them. I can't do that word. Rehabilitate them. Rehabilitate. You know the word I'm looking for, guys. You know what it is. The rehabilitated word. Anyways, that word. So they fix birds. They fix animals. They take care of them. They bring them back. And they are so far away. I don't want to make her travel an hour and so to drop off this bird and an hour back to this area. So I thought that's too much to ask. So I'm trying to figure out maybe volunteers to pick up the bird and drop it off. Then I found that they have some volunteers that can come pick it up. And it was a hassle because at one point they're like, nobody's available. And then finally this wonderful lady named Amy texted me, said, hey, I can come and grab this bird. And one thing to mention, when I caught the bird, and it was like, as I'm holding the bird, I can feel its heartbeat. It was in panic. The animals, obviously don't want to be grabbed. The bird assumes I'm about to eat it or hurt it. It's not loving this experience. So it's in panic. And the one thing that I thought was interesting is I was feeling its panic. Like I was in panic with it at the same time. And I was like, I'm not panicking. Like I'm not in danger. There's nothing that's threatening my life. Why am I in panic? I'm just like, I'm picking up on its panic attack that it's having. It just shows you how much of a, like, I know some annoying people use the word empath. I'm an empath. I think we all are. I think we're all, if if your heart is open, if your channels are open, you will feel, you'll pick up on vibes and fears and anxiety of other creatures, not just human beings. So I thought it's interesting that we're empath with animals as well, because I've had that experience before. Well, I remember an ex of mine found a kitten on the road, and it was like missing a tail, and she brought it to her place, and I just could not stop feeling this just immense sadness, and I couldn't stop crying, and I was in a space where I didn't cry much, and I just felt like I was picking up on the cat's sadness. The cat was sad. So anywho, next day Amy shows up, and it took a village to get this going. I had one of my neighbors pick up one of the spare key that we had in a lockbox and be able to give the bird to Amy. And sadly, the bird did not make it. So in the morning, I saw the bird and it was alive and well. And then apparently, I don't know what happened between that and then the bird passed away. And Amy said it could have been like some sort of neurological issue and it wasn't going to make it anyways. And I felt super sad, to be honest with you. I had intentions to go pick up this bird from the center and release it where I found it so it can get back to its friends and family. I don't know. And just it was shocking to know that it died, So I was like, I was sad. That night after the show, I went in my hotel room, and that was the only time I had to process feelings. I sat with my feelings a bit, and I cried for a good 15 minutes. And I started feeling really, really bad but also being aware of the cognitive dissonance that I have with animals. Isn't that funny that I can't do the rehabilitation word, but I can do cognitive dissonance? I started thinking about I don't know what I call it, hypocrisy, but the dissonance is as I'm trying to care for this wild bird and make sure and respect its life, that's what I'm doing. I'm respecting its life. I'm trying to help it out. I'm trying to help it make it. As I'm doing all this stuff, I was at the Delta Lounge eating 5 chicken sausages, you know what I mean? And, I just started make me think about the way I consume animals. I think, and I have a complicated way or complicated feelings about eating animals. I'm not all the way we all should be vegan type of shit. I think there's a medium between having to be vegan or vegetarian and eating. The way we eat meat is really disrespectful to the life of these animals. You think about a meat lover pizza. That is so disrespectful. A meat lover pizza is insanity. You have to understand that. Okay, so what's on a meat lover's pizza? We start with a cheese that's dairy, and you don't know what the fuck what they had to do to a cow to get that dairy. And then you got chicken, you have ham, or bacon or whatever, or sausages, and then you have ground beef. So you have 3 to 4 different animals in one piece of pizza. And those are not from one animal. For example, if there's a pepperoni and there's ham or whatever, that's not from the same pig. That's 2 different pigs. Essentially 4 to 5 animals have to suffer for us to have constipation. And you have to think, is that worth the reward? Is the meat lover pizza from Domino's worth the suffering of all these fucking animals? There's got to be a happier medium. There's got to be a more respectful way to eat animals. I think about the show Alone. I used to watch the show Alone, and it's 10 people that they put in the woods, and they have to survive for a certain amount of time. They just live off the land, so they fish, they create snares to catch bunnies, etc. But I respect that. I respect how when these guys catch an animal, they always thank it for its life, and then use every single part of the body to not waste its life. You know what I mean? They're not. I'm just saying, it's so fucking cruel the way our relationship with animals. and I'm not better than nobody. I fucking eat a meat lover pizza. I do all this stuff. I'm having, egg, cheese, and beef in one sandwich. I'm doing all this shit, and I'm sick of it. I don't think that's correct. I don't think that's ethical. I don't think an animal should be born into captivity and be just and its sole purpose is for it to be, fed to us, a society that already overeats meat. We don't need to eat this fucking much meat. So I'm just thinking about all this, and I was crying a lot, and I'm trying to I don't want this bird to die in vain. And I'm like, you know what? The one thing I will do to change myself and make a change is really try harder to develop a respectful relationship and respect the life of animals, right? If I'm gonna eat meat, I want to make sure this is coming from a place that's more ethically sourced. It's not like a chicken born into a cage and that's all they know until they die. I try harder, or maybe eat less meat, something, I might just try to be more vegetarian and then have exceptional places where I would eat meat. Like this weekend, the great Nicole. Nicole is an amazing friend of mine that I've met through comedy. Her and her husband, John, are great folks. And Nicole not only is a good and beautiful human being, she is a phenomenal chef, and this is how sweet and thoughtful they are. They knew last minute on Thursday when I posted about the show that I will be in San Diego, and then they came and spent the whole weekend in San Diego. And I thought they were just in San Diego at the same time, like a coincidence situation. But then I learned on Saturday they literally did that just for me. So thank you so much, Nicole and John. And Joey, John brought his son Joey, who was amazing. And he got to catch the late show Saturday. And I'm glad he had that experience, He had to catch his first real comedy show, and he said that his jaw hurt from laughing. So that was awesome. And, we played pickleball together with Kelsey as well. And I spent a lot of time with them at their friend's beach house that they were staying at. And Nicole made me all these amazing meals, and each meal contained meat. One of them was salmon. The other one was like a braised ribs. And then the last one, I believe, was a whole chicken. So I still was eating meat. But she is such a great chef and cook that she spices the meat a certain way, cooks it with so much, technique and time and love. And I go, even the way you cook meat is showing respect to the animal. Like she is not, we had a whole chicken, we didn't waste nothing, and everything was we ate the skin, everything was so delicious and edible, and she put so much love into the way she cooked. I was like, this feels and she gets high quality ingredients as well. So I was like, yeah, this is more respectful than dinosaur chickens, chicken nuggets. We got to do better, people. We have to do better. We cannot be doing this shit. And you can, whether it's hard. I go back and forth with this type of stuff because when I'm on the road, and especially smaller towns, it's really hard to find, either good vegetarian options or, ethically sourced stuff. But I'll try my best. I will try my best to do right by these poor fucking animals who deserve more. They deserve better. I believe they have souls just like us. I believe that I don't believe that we're not supposed to, in the animal kingdom, you see animals hunt other animals, but in that world, none of them are born into slavery or into cages and shit like that. They have a life, and then, if they're on a certain chain, they might be eaten or eat, whatever. They do it, but that's more natural. What we're doing is not fucking natural. And we all know that deep inside. When we all know that what we're doing is too much and it's wrong. But we just try not to think about it too much. But we should think about it. That's how I feel. And I feel like that interaction with that bird awoke in that part of me to just no longer ignore this. It just makes no sense that I love animals so much. I love my cats. I'm feeding the doves. I'm doing this shit. I'm doing all that. I can't be having all that relationship with animals and then have a meat lover pizza. You know what? We'll do better. But again, Nicole and John, I will get Nicole on the pod very soon. She is so interesting. She's so lovely. And so is John. John is, how do I describe John? John is like 6'3", 6'4". He's a gentle giant. If you've met John with no context of his persona and just kind of judge them based on his looks, you will be like, that's a very intimidating guy, or this guy might be racist. I'm just kidding. He's not like the most gentle looking guy, but as soon as you get to know him, you're like, this guy's a sweet, sweet giant. So thoughtful, so kind. And I can see that he's also an amazing father based on how Joey was. You know, when you see a teenager wanting to be around his parent and happy to be there, and the way how thoughtful Joey was and all of that, I can see that this guy is a great parent based on his son's behavior, and I can see that there's a healthy relationship between the two of them, because the kid wants to be around them and hang out with them, which is rare, right? And I like our friendship as well. I like where we were truly our friends, because a lot of times when I was at the beach house, that none of us needed to talk. You know what I mean? At one point, Joey's doing his like college applications. John is just relaxing, like looking at from they had a view of the beach, so I'm just sitting down on this comfortable chair and I either meditating or taking a nap, or I just like loved how I was like, oh, we're real friends. This is almost like family shit. When you're with your family, you don't have to talk all the time. There's no need to feel that. We're comfortable, and I enjoyed actually that we had that type of dynamic now. We weren't chatty the whole time. And I got to also see dolphins, which was awesome. And Nicole was telling me that there are dolphins that come like around in the morning, and then they come around at night or around dawn. And on the second day, Saturday, I went there in hopes to catch the dolphins, and I saw them, and they were so cool. There's like maybe 8 or 10 of them, and they kind of swam in pairs or threes, and then they pop out, pop back down. It was really cool to watch dolphins and get some beach time and look at nature. And at one point we went to the beach and we walked around, and I saw a lady who was collecting rocks, which I thought was corny. I was like, hey, what are you doing? She's like, I'm collecting rocks and shells or whatever. I think a lot of it was, what are those things called? They're not rocks and not shells. They're I don't know, a thingy that's white and it's colorful. And then actually, that's when I discovered that I am also autistic. I did not know this about myself. I'm on the spectrum, and my thing is rocks, okay? As soon as because I was doing the same thing actually she was doing, but I didn't have intentions to collect them. And then I was like, actually, that's a great idea. Let's collect these. So for 2 days in a row, I was on the beach walking with Nicole, John, and Joey, and and we all started picking out like cool rocks, shells, and another form of things that I forgot the name for. Did I bring a Ziploc bag full of rocks and stuff? Yes, I did. Was the TSA confused? Absolutely. I had the most wonderful time in San Diego. San Diego is such a top tier city, man. It's actually a city we're willing to like live in. I've always thought I could live in San Diego. It's just like, so, the water calms people down. I feel like water is so therapeutic, and it creates like, it's like, I feel like that chill California vibe comes from the water. The elements affects people's personality. And, good Mexican food as well. And just the people are so kind. The way I can describe San Diegans is they have the kindness of New Yorkers. Like, if New Yorkers are not pleasant off the top, but if you get to know them, they're really good, kind people. And Midwesterns are the opposite. So like Minnesotans, for example, they're polite off the top, very pleasant, but then there's not much going on beyond that. Like, they have a wall up. They're not super, actually, it's hard to make friends there. But San Diego has like the mix of both. They have the politeness of the Midwest, and then they had the kindness of New Yorkers. So like off the top, they're pleasant, and then you talk to them, they're also kind, like actually kind. So I really love San Diego, and I appreciated all the fun little interactions that I've had, and just people are so like easygoing, man. One thing that I think is so good for you is nature walks. You know what I mean? And walking with no direction almost. So like one thing I did Saturday is I just kind of took a walk with, no directions, no purpose, just walked. And there's enough nature in San Diego, like enough trees, and it's not like New York where you have to go to Central Park or Prospect Park. You see nature within the city, and I just kind of walked and walked and walked and walked. And then before I knew it, I found the water, and I was like, that's not even that far from where I was staying. And I think that was like stuff like that is like so good for your brain, I think. And I was like loving it. I was like, man, I just feel so good being here, and I can walk forever. And then I'm also was kind of, I don't want to say grumpy, but prone to irritability for a couple of reasons. The time zone difference is insane. So it's like 3 hours ahead of New York or behind. So like when it's 7 p.m. in San Diego, it's 10 p.m. in New York. So like, for example, the late show, I'm there till like almost midnight, which in my body thinks is like 2, 3 a.m. And then the first flight was at like 6 a.m. Thursday. So I didn't get any sleep. And considering also the bird, I had to like think about the bird while I was asleep. And I was getting really light sleep. And then because of the time difference, it was tough to try to like, get a good 8 hours sleep. So I was kind of sleep deprived this weekend, but a good city to be sleep deprived in. And the other thing that I did, I was trying to limit my interaction with like social media. It's really like not good for us. Obviously, we all know that. I don't think that's mind bottling information, but it's highly addictive. And anytime I'm scrolling, I don't feel good. I never feel fulfilled. I don't feel happy. I don't feel, if anything, it makes me more anxious, makes me more unhappy. It's not a good feeling to be on social media. And usually if it gets too much, I'll delete like Instagram, etc. And then it's annoying because of comedy. You have to like post posters, etc. Videos, certain things that I get to do, and they make the browser version really hard to navigate for that reason, so people can get back to the app. And then it's just always like this dance with Instagram. And Kelsey sent me a thing called Opal. It's an app that bricks your social media stuff, and I started using that this weekend. I made it where it limits my use certain times during the day, which I thought was actually brilliant. I was like, I can break my social media and YouTube and all that stuff 10 p.m. to midnight, or actually all the way till 5 p.m. So I'm not on my phone before I sleep, and I'm not on my phone if I wake up throughout the night. And I have my morning to myself without my social media and YouTube and all that stuff. And then I can do my work till 5 p.m. And then starting at 5 p.m., it's back on. And then when it's on, I'm still monitoring my use. I'm not like going ham in those hours. But to have it just be available between 5 p.m. and like I think 10, plenty when you think about it. It's for a whole 5 hours you can use your apps, and it feels like you're not on social media forever. There's like a withdrawal period, even though I still have 5 hours a day to use it. I'm still going, my body's just, it's just, going through like withdrawals, I feel like. So because of this and the lack of sleep, I was a little grumpy at times. I remember I went to CVS, and I bought like chocolate, and I bought gum, and there's nobody was cashiering, so I used the checkout register, but it was so complex. It was too much information on the thing, and it was like annoying to use. And then I used my payment, and out loud it would be like, try decline payment, try using a different method. It's just like embarrassing. It just like tells the whole story. You're getting declined. I was like so annoyed, and I'll try it again. And I was using my checking account instead of my credit card account. I'm trying to like be more financially responsible and just like spend money I have. So summers are slow, so it's like, it's a bit of financially is not the greatest time for stand up. So I'm like, I don't want to keep acquiring credit debt. So let me just use my check-in and then try to live within my means for the time. So I'm using my check-in, and it's not working, and I don't have any other credit cards. And eventually I look at a guy who's just like not even paying attention, and I go, is there a cashier? And he goes, yeah, it's me. And as we were walking to the self-checkout, he goes, it's not the register or self-checkout. It's not it. It's you. He just said that, and it really bothered me. And I go, you don't even fucking know what happened, and you're already blaming the fucking customer. That's my direct quote to this guy. I just came in very hot. I said, you don't even know what the fuck happened, and you're already blaming the fucking customer, which is a lot. I agree. Okay. I didn't even realize I was that irritable. And I just didn't like that he like just came in with that attitude right away. And then he goes, "Excuse me," and then I go, you don't know what happened, so don't assume I did something." I railed it back to that. And then we tried one more time and it didn't work again. And then he's like, "I can try the register." He just trying to appease me, I guess. We go to the register. I had enough cash to buy the gum, but not chocolate. So I just bought the stuff with the cash, the gum with the cash. And then I was like, let me go to a different place and try my card, see if it's working. Because I know I have money. So I walk and there was a cafe and I was like, let me get some matcha. I go in and we already know what happened between me and that barista in Milwaukee. I don't like baristas anymore. Not all of them, but like I don't like the snobby shit. So I come in and I'm like, hey, because of that interaction, I specified the milk. So I said, hey, can I have a matcha latte with soy milk? And she goes, excuse me, what? And I go, here we go, another fucking snobby barista. And then I go, matcha latte with soy milk, iced. I say all the information. And then she looked still confused and she's like, okay. And then I got annoyed and I said, did I invent a new drink? Why is this so baffling to you? And then she goes, I'm so sorry. And then I realized she wasn't being snobby. She just kind of like either didn't hear me well or was newer or something. And she was like so sweet. And then when I saw that she was not being a snob, immediately I said, I'm sorry, I'm having a bad day. And then she's like, I'm sorry, you're having a bad day. She didn't say that. She said, I'm sorry. And then she made the drink and then I felt bad. And then as this is happening, I get a text message from Chase saying, hey, fraudulent charge. So Chase thought my CVS attempt was a fraudulent charge because I got gum and chocolate. And it makes sense because I never used a check and I usually use my credit cards. So then I go, yeah, dude, the guy was right. It was me. It was me. It's not the system. It's not the machine. And then she brought me the matcha and she's like, Ali. And she said, my name's so sweetly. And she's like, I hope you have a better day. And I'm like, oh, you're so kind. And I stepped out and then I was like, I still have some cash. So I just, came back and I think she looked at me like kind of scared. She's like, oh, he's coming back for what? And then I just put like $4 in the tipping thingy and then walked away. So yeah, and I was like, I think this is because I'm going through social media, the sleep for sure, but through social media withdrawals, like not being, it's truly an addiction and not being to be on your phone. It's just like there's a certain feeling that you have to kind of fight. Lastly, I would like to talk about the shows. The shows were awesome, man. Could have not been easier. Really easy week. We had great shows. Just a couple bullshit here and there, but like, I remember on, I think early Saturday, I was doing this bit, and this bit is a bit about like, I don't want to give away the bit, but this guy heckled in a very inappropriate space, which bothered me. And then I made fun of him and whatever. But even after that show, like the whole set was fun, and people were so sweet. They came up to me after the show. They're like, "Oh my God, we loved you." It was really kind words, like, "Oh man, just I don't want to even say it because then it feels like bragging." But really sweet people after the show. So I'm super grateful for the comedy club, and the staff was kind. That makes business a lot easier. Sometimes you go to these comedy clubs, there's usually one or two challenging characters, but this was pretty chill, man. From the wait staff to the manager to the sound guy to everybody was like extremely pleasant, easygoing, and I felt like when the staff is good like that, you feel like it's us as a team. And we're, I don't want to say them versus them being the audience because it should be all of us together. But it feels like we're all, trying to make the show work and that feels good. And sometimes that's not how it feels. Sometimes it feels like you come in and the staff doesn't really fuck with the comics. And I can imagine why. I'm sure there's plenty of shitty comics who either are trying to be inappropriate or whatever, in one way or another being shitty. And so the staff starts kind of hating comics. Well, I could see that happening, but it was nice that they were cool, and it made things a lot easier. And I feel like there's a relationship between definitely the wait staff and the comics. Like if the wait staff is friendly, the audience is more prone to laugh, I think, because they're in a good mood. And if we're funny, they get more tips. So it's like a beneficial thing between the two of us. And I'm glad that they were cool. So yeah, good comedy club, fun, real fun sets. Had a good time. I'll catch you guys next week. I am grateful to be back home, honestly. I am grateful that I got a full night of sleep, man. I got like 8-9 hours. I feel like I have energy again. I am grateful to see my boys. I'm grateful for Kelsey. The boys, man, they've been so cuddly all day today. I feel like they're trying to make up for lost time. So yeah, I'm grateful for you guys as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll chat next time. Bye-bye.